With your help, we can continue to fight for freedom, reach new audiences, and bring important information to the public free of charge. This is not possible without your generosity. Join our quest for the truth and our freedom and donate today, telling it as it is. This is today's News Talk, The World Today.
And welcome back to our The World Today. We just had the magnificent half-hour special on beer, and I think beer is just magnificent. My guest today is Greg Simons. Dr. Greg Simons is a professor based at the Department of Journalism, Media and Communications at the Daffodil International University in Bangladesh. He is an expert on Russian mass media, terrorism, public diplomacy, the relationship between politics, information and armed conflict. And he is currently working on the role of information and communication in contemporary geopolitics. Greg, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Mike.
I saw I saw you smacking your lips on that last half hour. I mean, that beer just looked magnificent. And being a Friday, and being an Australian,
and being in Bangladesh when you're deprived of such heavenly things.
But it's we're just trying to keep the spirit or spirits of comradeship alive. The Israeli government is paying US content producers up to shock horror $7,000 per post as part of a major increase in budget for global influence campaigns. Tell us more about this.
I mean, it's a sign of desperation because, why are they paying so much at this point? I mean, if they were on the so-called right side of history, they would not need to do this, to pay these sums. So what we see here, they're losing the global audience, including the Western audience. And the US audience. So what we have is an attempt to somehow to get these back using key influencers as a mechanism for doing that. I think it's going to fail. I mean, they've lost quite a few key ones. I mean, including Charlie Kirk, which is one of the more notorious losses recently.
Yeah, it's interesting with the. With all this, because it's not unusual either. By the way, I don't believe that we have various countries. I mean, look at the US, look at the Eastern Bloc countries or former Eastern Bloc countries. Look at Australia, maybe not, but look at the rest of the places, but they all do it. But how are they avoiding the foreign agent rules?
It's the selective enforcement of the law, because I suppose if you are an official in the United States and do the right thing, that is to enforce the law, you're probably going to be looking for a new job that day, because it's clear. I mean, judging by the relationship, or I don't know if you'd call it relationship, but the interactions between Netanyahu with the US political circles, it's clear who is in charge and calling the shots.
Some of the names, they're big names. Big names of the social media sphere. Can you think of any off the top of your head?
I know that I can't remember the name, but I know that they're really going, in spite of calling out this woke Reich nonsense, I noticed that they are doing some woke things themselves. There was one guy, I can't remember his name, he's African American, but a gay influencer, and he was there doing his little videos and so forth in a very cringe-worthy fashion. So, I mean, they are going for anyone who can reach an audience, especially amongst the conservatives. I mean, I think it was a huge blow for them to lose the likes of Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk, because one of them was a massive influencer within those circles they want to groom.
What's your, just while we're talking about, you mentioned Charlie Kirk, which is like a red flag. Um, have you been following the what's happened after the big get together to celebrate his life? It just seems that Turning Point USA, it's become a little more. This is just how I feel. So I'm not saying it is, but it feels like it's become a little more compliant to the wishes of Bibi.
Yeah, it's well, when you lose someone with such a presence as he commanded, you lose one of the guiding light, ideological lights of the movement. So I think this turning point is going to be trying to find that next person who can step into his shoes. I don't think they've done that yet. So there's going to be a bit of chaos and a little bit of barging amongst those who would seek to do that. I think one of the really revealing things of Charlie Kirk's murder is how this is communicated, should we say, where on the one side you have those grieving him, on the other side you have those mocking his death. So it's created quite a polarized environment.
The the world is celebrating. Donald Trump has been, I think, nominated for a Peace Prize. It'll be the universe next day. I mean, just thinking then that, I mean, the universe is his limit, and and they're sending a spaceship for him, maybe, if you believe some of the scientists, that object coming towards Earth. Um, what's your thoughts on his inverted commas peace deal?
Well, I mean, the circus really picks up pace. I mean, you've had Zelensky join this and said that Ukraine would join in the nomination if he gives them tomahawks. So one can see how this would contribute towards his peace prize. Uh, but I mean, I think that Trump will soon view himself as the next Senator Palpatine. Who's going to morph into this figure, the Emperor, so to speak. Because I mean, it's on such off the charts in terms of rational logic. This is just not healthy for soul or mind.
And that's why, I mean, you might have thought, why is he playing in a farm program how they grow hops, besides it being a farm program? But there's a reason why we need to drink a lot. I mean, because he's going to get his peace prize. The world, even some of the opposition media, are saying he deserves a peace prize. I mean, it's interesting how they can flip flop. But I suppose though it's the proof is in the eating of the pudding, as they say, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I mean, everybody seems to be on board at the moment, so I mean, that can't be bad, can it?
It can be very bad, actually, and it is because I mean this is literally, I mean, living in real time. The emperor has no clothes, and not that you'd want to see that ever, because that is something you would never be able to unsee in your life
No, thank you.
with any amount of beer or psychological counselling. Uh, but I mean, it's just it's not in another world. I mean, these ones, they live in this kind of echo chamber and filter bubble, which is immune to the usual constraints and restraints of reality. These things don't touch them anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm just thinking though, the social influencers. I mean, they spent, I think, 150 US million paying these people to say the right things. That's a sizable chunk of change, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you look at it from another point of view, if you're looking at the sheer statistics of this thing, 150 million, you're looking at the measure of activity. You're not looking at the measure of effect of that 150 million. I think the peeing against the wind, so to speak, because I mean, what is out there now, I mean, just absolutely contradicts anything these ones say. So, I mean, they prostitute themselves for this money, but I don't think the money and the efforts to try and uh, claw back this old image of Israel and Netanyahu is not going to work. There's just too much working against it,
Mm.
including TikTok videos posted by Israeli soldiers committing all kinds of various crimes.
You'd think they'd be a little more careful, but they obviously have this feeling of nothing will touch me. I'm wearing this Teflon jacket, talking to a bunch of lawyers, and the last few days, the last couple of weeks, in fact, they should not be so relaxed. The other initiatives, besides spending 150 million on influencers, Israel is now paying 1.5 million a month to Trump's former digital strategist, Brad Parscale, to produce strategic communications using AI tools to generate thousands of variants on pro-Israel messaging. Now, by the way, Parscale is registered as a foreign agent. Again, that's an enormous amount of money, and obviously they have a lot of faith in what he can do and what AI can do. What do you think?
I think the similar result, but it's an interesting situation where Israel is using US taxpayers' money given to them by the US to propagandize American citizens. So it's, I suppose, one can say in a way that the US taxpayers get their money back in propaganda directed at them. I don't think it'll work because I mean, it's gone too far down the road. This whole genocide and ethnic cleansing is well out there. So what they're doing is it's not going to have any great effect. I mean, they've already lost public opinion, and they had that a while ago. And they don't change their behaviour or attitude. I mean, you get them continuing to bomb civilians, bomb other countries, etc. So there's no change in behaviour.
Mm.
So if you don't change your behaviour and you just feed propaganda, uh, it's going nowhere because now people know where to find the information that they need just to expose this rather, should we say, low quality propaganda efforts to groom them.
Yeah, but if it gets Donald his Peace Prize, you and I will become alcoholics.
I think it would require much more than alcohol to drown out anything from that.
I'm not going to go there at all, but Macron, he did. Anyway, so that's another.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know where he gets his supply from there, from our little comedian in Kiev.
By the way, I didn't say that at all. Greg did. I just wanted to also talk about how they're using social media, Israel. Do you think they actually? I think you think it's a waste of money now because it's just falling on deaf ears. But do you think though that because you see Larry Ellison, he's got TikTok, and they were afraid of the Chinese siphoning data. They hadn't created any wars, hadn't gone shooting anybody in the West, so obviously that would have been for commercial purposes only. Israel, I don't think they want that data for because Larry Ellison is he's the biggest donor for the IDF, which is just nice of him actually, a very nice guy, and he'll provide.
Philanthropist.
He's a lovely fellow. He'll provide all the information to Bibi, and Bibi will have a chat to another nice group called Mossad, and they'll say, oh, we know that these people are doing this. Why don't you pop round and say hello to them? All for commercial purposes only. So I think
Oh,
they have a very strong weapon, don't they, of being sneaky by using TikTok, which the Chinese were doing in the first place. So we're just giving it to a more deadly organisation or group of people.
well, you're giving it to a psychopathic and genocidal organisation. So, I mean, it's been elevated a number of times. And it just shows you that this facade of this whole thing. And of course, it's ideological. Of course, Bibi, I mean, he wants to cling in there, holding power in Israel. I mean, if he loses power, he gets free room and board for the foreseeable future for not his genocide and ethnic cleansing, but for his transgressions of the Israeli law and abuse of power.
Can you just tell me, because I didn't see anything about accountability, because once there is peace and, well, a peace deal of sorts, and who knows how far this will go, but with a peace deal of sorts, wouldn't that sort of not open the floodgates, but encourage people to hold Netanyahu and his cohorts accountable?
Most definitely. And this is why he's doing everything in his power to ensure that doesn't happen. He says, oh, yes, yes, yes. And then, ra- not so randomly, bomb Qatar or bomb another country where they're holding negotiations and meetings. I mean, this is not accidental. I mean, it's deliberate strategy. So, I mean, he can't allow peace to come in because otherwise he'll have a very peaceful small cell all to himself.
If I was him, I wouldn't do a scenic cruise around the fjords because he may not come back again. Um, but being serious though, sure they wish to have a few words to him. Do you think that'll ever happen?
Well, if he loses power in Israel, I mean, then he loses his protection. So, and I don't see how he can keep going because, I mean, Israel is not a big country and it's much smaller in terms of population after what has been happening. So he's in a very vulnerable spot. I mean, and rather than doing sensible strategic things for the long term, he's doing these various little things for the short term just to cling on that much a little bit longer. And in the long term, I mean, he's destroying his strategic options and viability by doing so. Because it's going to get to the point where he's going to back into a corner and there's nowhere left to back into. I mean, he'll be finished. And so it's not a question whether he'll be held accountable internationally. When he gets into that corner, he'll be held to account, well, partially to account domestically by Israel, by the courts and the police there.
Let's just move across to peaceful Europe. We have Zelensky wanting, probably about to receive from the Nobel Peace Prize recipient or future recipient, Donald Trump, some Tomahawk missiles, which are very peaceful. And they're going to fire his peaceful gift into Russia. And of course, the targets are supplied by a peaceful president's intel orgs. Not really peaceful, is it? And I think if they start bombing deep within in Russia, and for example, plonking a few bombs on top of, or missiles on top of Moscow, what do you think Putin would do? Do you think he'll sit back and go, he's a very good man. He's just won himself a Nobel Peace Prize. Or do you think he'll say, I think we should retaliate in some way and bomb the shit out of him?
Putin's in a very difficult position now because there's a growing discord that he's not being hard enough, that he's being too soft by drawing these red lines, but not enforcing or creating any kind of sanction for the violation of those red lines. If something like that happens, I don't see how he would be able to not retaliate, because contrary to the absolutely trustworthy, never lie to you mainstream Western media, he does not run the country solely by himself as some kind of new incarnation of Stalin. He is answerable to certain electorates and to certain powers within his inner circle.
Yeah,
So,
I would think, Greg, that perhaps the only if that did happen, and I think it will happen, they'll fire a bunch of missiles into Russia, and if Putin is, I won't say level-headed, but if he doesn't retaliate as many within Russia would like to him to do, and also out of Russia, because then they have a reason to ramp up the whole exercise of warfare. But if Putin mustn't feel then all that safe, because on one hand he has a bunch of people wanting him gone, and if he's trying to be a little level-headed and not to do what anybody else would do, and you have people behind him saying either you do what we want or you won't be here, it puts him in a really bad position, doesn't it? Because he's not going to win either way.
exactly. And the usual route people take in this situation uh, is the path that keeps them where they are rather than to go against the grain. So it will force the hand in one direction. And then, of course, you'll get screaming in unison, unprovoked aggression, blah, 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 the usual, how do they call it, grey zone warfare and hybrid warfare and the usual cries. But, I mean, you can only delay this thing so long, but the continual stupidity and arrogance of the EU and the United States in just keeping on ramping this up. I mean, where do you think it'll go eventually? Something will give eventually, because options will be no longer available if he wants to keep his presidency intact.
Yeah, I think it'd get really interesting, and obviously Trump will deliver those missiles, and Zelensky will practice great restraint for about 10 seconds, and he'll fire them off. Hopefully, they'll go in the right direction, and then you'll find that Putin he'll do what he has to do. Where do you think he will target? Do you think he just target NATO bases, or do you think he would surprise other countries within the EU?
I think if this happens, but of course, Russia will know where these warehouses, where these storage and transit things are. Probably in these vassal states like Germany, like Ramstein or something like that, to bring them through there. And of course, these will probably receive the visit of a hazelnut, or as it is in Russian, oreshnik. And of course, these things, they will be keeping an eye on rail traffic coming into Ukraine with all the likely routes. And if you're Russia, you'd take out these rail routes, you'd take out these trains, you'd take out any kind of transportation which could be used to bring those from outside of Ukraine into Ukraine. And these things wouldn't exist if this was the United States. I mean, you saw what they did to Iraq. Those times they just obliterated all infrastructure, military and non-military. So in this regard, this would be forcing Russia's hand to accelerate and increase their targeting of infrastructure which would support these things. It might also force them to start targeting more decision-making centres. So those people making the decisions, because so far, I mean, I'm sure that Russia knows where they are and they have the arsenal that can take them out, but they haven't so far. And if this goes ahead, then sure. I mean, why would you leave this intact so that it can be used against you?
I think if there was an inclination from Russia to do something to the EU, I do think because they're such brave people, I think the one of two things would happen. It would escalate into a very big conflict with the US pushing it. I don't think that will happen actually, because you've got a Nobel Peace Prize president. Don't you forget that either, by the way. Or they'll just put their hands up and say stop. Because look, we have. I was reading yesterday where Italy, a picture of they're sending 400 armored vehicles to Ukraine. 400, and then you read the small print. He said the ones that are working will be used immediately for the others. So all they were doing is getting rid of their old infantry, not infantry, but infantry, and instead of taking them down to the wreckers or having a fire sale or find a used, almost working armored vehicle on eBay, they sent them to Ukraine to fix them up. So I don't think I mean, we sent our bushmasters in Australia to Ukraine, which resemble and they as reliable as a Morris Minor. I mean, so we sent that to them. They didn't last very long. So I think what we're finding, I don't think Europe's got they may have the determination, but they certainly can't match Russia or Moscow by any stretch. So that's what I think anyway. But just the fact that Italy, were making this big ado about sending 400 armoured personnel vehicles, but they didn't, you had to read the small print to say, oh, most of them don't work.
No. No. I mean, it's a fantasy land, and that's the thing. I mean, look at for the small print always, because these politicians are incapable of telling a truth, the truth, I should say. They tell a truth. 400. It looks impressive, but how many of them are actually functional?
They don't
And
work.
how many of them will last, should we say, another form of fire sale on the Ukrainian front line? It's not going to be very long at all.
I like the Alfa Romeo. I like them very much, but and we used to have a couple, but for reliability purposes, they're not very good at all. So if you're receiving these tanks and you want to check where they've been made, because from the Alfa Romeo factory, they're not going to go very far at all. And I think it's I think it's a bit of a farce, the whole thing, and it's all again propaganda, isn't it? Look what we're doing. We're going to help Kiev. We're going to help them. We're going to help Ukraine. And really, all we've done is they have to employ more mechanics.
Yeah. I mean, it's putting Ukraine in a similar situation what the German military was facing on the Eastern Front. They had a huge number of different variety of different armored fighting vehicles, artillery, all these other things. It's an absolute nightmare to maintain, and it strains the whole supply chain because so many different parts to require. You don't have a standardized one. And looking at Ukraine, I mean, they're in a situation where they're folding, and you've just got this virtue signaling by these morons in Europe that are sitting in front of the cameras making these stupid, seemingly grandiose, but basically empty gestures to appease whoever. And then you got this van der Leyen running around like a headless chicken, but with half the intelligence that is saying, well, Ukraine can win back all of its territory from Russia. I mean, with what? I mean, they don't have the capability or capacity in manpower or material.
I think, though, their secret weapon, and again, you seem to forget this. I mean, besides our Nobel Peace Prize forthcoming president, well, he's a president now, but forthcoming Peace Prize, you seem to forget the might of the English. And what they're going to do is call on the UK, because look at the last few years. You will see this mean fighting machine within the UK. I mean, you just tell me how they're going with the immigrants. Stop. Well, we'll say stop again. Come in. We're going to have a digital ID that will stop you from coming in. So what they're going to do is they're going to get Starmer, and he's going to go into Russia and parts of Ukraine with a digital ID, and that will stop Russia in the tracks. But being serious, they can't even stop the immigrants. So I think the EU's military might is not a military might at all. It's just it's more of a whimper, isn't it?
I think it's an insult to whimper because I mean they even lack that. I mean look how degenerate it is. You have more admirals than ships, and I mean and Starmer having trouble. I mean he can't even protect his properties or his vehicles from these Ukrainian boys who were torching them. So I mean, what's he going to do there? I mean, I mean, it doesn't even rate a yapping Chihuahua because I mean, the yapping Chihuahua has more presence than the UK by this stage.
I think that's one of Starmer's favourite dogs, isn't it? I mean, he has his yapping Chihuahuas, and then he enjoys a spit roast. I mean, the guy is just he's amazing. While we're at it, because we're still waiting on our next guest to turn up, and you're here because you're doing such a great job. You would have been following the fiasco with the government of the UK in some way. How does the UK fix itself? Because at the moment you got the out of control immigration problem, you got the threats to people's personal freedom and privacy and so forth with the digital ID. You got all sorts of bad things happening around. The farmers are being bashed on the head with their inheritance tax and so forth. And Starmer's going to be there for another 3 years. They say he'll go because no one likes him. He's not going to leave, and he's doing exactly, as you mentioned with Putin, Starmer's doing exactly as his party says. So how do we fix this? Is from the colonials. I mean, I think you were convicts, weren't you? Were you convicts, New Zealanders?
I think you got the wrong side of the Tasman there.
Sorry, I thought you might have. I thought they were
Officially, the Australians were convicts. The New Zealanders are the ones not caught.
Oh, really? I thought you would have we would have dropped us off and you kept going because to a worse place than Australia. But, okay, so from the because we're the convicts, you guys are probably the crawlers. But how do you fix the UK? Because they're saying, oh well, next election. Well, I don't really see a whole lot at the moment with reform. Secondly, you have to get people to go out and vote. Now, you know how Labor Party work. They're almost like the salvos and go out and vote. So they're going to have greater numbers voting whether they like Starmer or not. They're going to follow party politics and just vote the guy in again. So I reckon he's going to be there for another term after this one, which at the moment in England or in the UK, people just swallow their cornflakes, bowl and all, when I've said that. But I don't see the Labor Party being exited because I don't think there's enough support for reform. And even though you had a march of between 110,000 and 3 million people, not much of a discrepancy in numbers there at all. But you take out, say, 3 million, there's still 70 million who didn't, and who and sure some are supporting them marching, but I still think the majority at the moment. They've embraced what Australia used to have, and probably still has. That's apathy. They'll whinge a bit, but so I don't see Starmer going. So how do we fix the UK?
I think the UK is beyond being fixed. There are some things that you just cannot fix, and that is one of them. I mean, it's going to continue its degenerated and rather ungraceful decline. And I'm sure that its status as a banana monarchy will be absolutely and utterly confirmed at any stage, because, I mean, they're collapsing economically, they're collapsing politically, they're collapsing in every single way. And as you said, I mean, you have the majority of the people are detached emotionally from the mainstream political system. They just want nothing to do with it because they see that it does not have their interests, and it will never adhere to their interests. So, yeah, you can't fix that level. I mean, Enid Powell, if we remember him, I mean, he warned about this being a possible outcome or already decades ago. So uh, what we have is the result of stupidity and arrogance.
Yeah, I think I often say it. I think the West is, I won't say slowly disassembling. I think it's much faster than that. And if you look at, I mean, and again, I know he's not your favourite president, but I think he's doing some okay things within the US which needed to be done within the walls of the US. I think on the world stage, although he's maybe has brokered a peace deal of sorts, which let's just see how that eventuates. But take that aside, you haven't got a whole lot of good things happening within Western nations. Australia's doing all they can now to bring in digital IDs and e-safety stuff, and the new one is that they're going to bulldoze and remove the tops of all these mountain ranges and stick up thousands upon thousands of wind turbines, which is a really good idea because if there's a fire, you can't send in the air support because they're 260 meters tall. But also a great idea because they're saving the planet by killing it. I mean, all the beautiful fauna and stuff. So we have all that trouble here. So I do think the West is disassembling, and I think it's doing it pretty quickly. What do you think?
I mean, it's an accelerating rate of decline,
Mm,
and you can see it. I mean, you see it well from Australia. When I look at Europe or what's left of it,
mm,
you can see it unfolding too, and it's picking up pace because rather than admit what they're doing is stupid, counterproductive, and self-destructive, they cannot admit this, and they cannot change track. Excuse me. They instead double down on stupid. I mean, it's like the EU, which I refer to as the EU SSR, when it has considering the 19th sanctions package against Russia, because the other 18 have been so wonderful in terms of changing Russia's behaviour,
mm.
but now they're considering 19, and it's killing Europe. I mean, Germany's been rapidly deindustrialized and it's just falling apart, and they just continue on stupid.
I totally agree. It's and I don't see anyone putting their hand up and saying stop because there's no one there to do it. And you mentioned before that if there is a stoush, they will follow. They will maybe do something to where the decisions are made. And I thought you'd be very generous there because within Europe, I mean, I can't see anybody except unless it's von der Leyen, and her decisions aren't worth tuppence. I mean, they can't make a decision there. I mean, they except to pick on the smaller person and say, we're going to control your freedom, your space, your free speech. But when it comes to someone bigger than them or the same size, they can't do it. So I don't see anybody within Europe making a decision that Putin will want to stamp out. I think he just has to go boot, and that would be the end of of Europe, basically boot. And if anyone wants to disprove me, please tell me why I'm wrong. Just before we go, because our other guest has not turned up, but I've enjoyed the conversation, by the way, so I don't think I'm just doing this because I'm professional. But
But I understand you enjoy my political correctness and
I do.
diplomacy.
I do. I chuckle. I snortle, and I feel like I'm a naughty boy at times. I have to say, because I can say things when you bounce back with something worse than what I'm saying, and that's fantastic.
It's a win-win situation.
It is. But tell me about your university, Daffodil University, because until we spoke. And not meaning to be rude, I had not heard of Daffodil University. First of all, I thought maybe you were a florist.
Well, I did dabble in horticulture as a kid in New Zealand, but this is Daffodil International University. It's one of the largest and it's the top ranked private university in Bangladesh. And it's actually part of the Daffodil Group. So hence the name Daffodil International University. So it's growing and continuing to grow. They are very pragmatic and they're looking at expanding and bringing together not only these weird academic theories but also with practical application.
Mm.
So, I mean, if you bring a graduate out of journalism, media communication in, for example, Sweden, I mean, they're not prepared, particularly for the work environment. But here, the practical aspects, I mean, they have these people from industry who are alongside academics who specialize in the theory and the concepts like myself. So, I mean, I hadn't heard of it. I think I first heard of it like 3-4 years ago. And since then, it's just constantly growing
Mm.
in terms of it, the student numbers, the infrastructure, and so forth. So, and yeah, I escaped the loony bin conversations from these people in Europe. I mean, it's quite refreshing to deal with real life problems,
Mm.
which are interesting to navigate, rather than these created problems, which are basically ideologically based. So, this is something which is positive.
And just a little bit about what you would do on weekends. I mean, you seem to be a long way from the ocean. I would imagine that Dakar is a very hot place, and
Mhm.
but so what? Just fill us in. What would someone do um, in the middle of Bangladesh?
Well, it's a city of about 21 million.
Mm.
So
Giant city.
Dhaka, yeah. So one of the most heavily polluted cities on the planet. But where the unit campus is, it's right on the outskirts, so you don't have
Mm.
these issues. I mean, so this is something. But I mean, it's got a lot of industry and so forth. I mean, the it's quite a young population who are quite tech savvy and really into their apps and social media and things
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm. And you've just disappeared there. We see your light's gone off, by the way. If you wouldn't mind just putting the light back on, we have something happening. Greg's just disappeared. Did he say something wrong? I don't know. Can you hear me, Greg? Just say something. No, he can't. His internet has just gone. That was Dr. Greg Simons, by the way. He was talking about Dakar and a great city. So that's fantastic. And he's just an amazing person. I have to say, even though we've filled in some time, I find Dr. Greg Simons to be very interesting. And speaking of interesting, coming up next, Hedley Rees, who's, again, he's very interesting. And he's bang on with everything he says. And we'll find out more on why he's bang on everything he says here on The World Today.
Telling it as it is. Today's News Talk. The World Today.
And back again. I see Greg popping in and out right now. His internet's a bit bit suspect. So, Greg, if you're listening to this, time for a beer. Time for a beer. So I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you next week if you don't mind. And thank you very much. Our next guest is Hedley Rees, Managing Director and Lead Consultant at PharmaFlow Limited. Hedley, thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome, Mike. What's going
Um,
on today?
you made a formal complaint to MHRA relating to AstraZeneca COVID vaccines. Tell us how you went.
Well, I've been on at this since June 2024. I wrote to the chair of the MHRA,
Mm.
which is then Professor Cook. Um, and there's a new chair now who was the joint chair of the JCVI, the Joint Committee for Vaccine and Immunisation. Not a wonderful qualification for running the MHRA. Um, but I've submitted the complaint basically because AstraZeneca withdrew from the market. They stopped selling their drug. Now, remember, this went to 170 different countries. It didn't get sold in the US, but other than that, it went all over the world. And of course, in supply chain terms, if you withdraw from the market, you've still got the layers of the supply chain, the start materials, the drug substance, the drug product, and the finished product, all in various stages of manufacture with all the materials involved in place. You've got the vials in hospitals, even in doctors' surgeries. So you can't just withdraw from the market and just say that doesn't belong to us anymore. And it's the MHRA's job in the UK to make sure that all those materials and products are properly disposed of in a very compliant way. So I've been on at them. I've had various discussions with the customer experience center, which is a bit of a strange name. It has been an experience, and this is what I've said basically to the administrative complaints officer. So this is a formal complaint, and it has to go through these stages. I'm writing formally to request a review of the response I received to my complaint. For clarity, my unresolved concerns include the absence of detailed explanation or additional information addressing the central regulatory and scientific matters described in my inquiry. A lack of evidence that my substantive points were reviewed and responded to beyond the provision of procedural information or references to prior generic correspondence. The need for assurance that complaints are met not only with procedural acknowledgements, but with meaningful content-driven engagement on the issues presented. Now, I've presented a significant amount of information. I also wrote an article in the Daily Skeptic on it, which I haven't sent to them, but it explains the whole thing. Basically, it says that the MHRA have to be sure that when AstraZeneca stopped marketing those drugs, all the product that they were responsible for, not just the finished products, but all the ones through the supply chain, were properly disposed of, and they have a department to do that. The Defective Medicines Report Centre is a body within the MHRA, and what I've said is, look, even if you don't think there's an issue with not recalling these injections, you must investigate it just in case. You can't just assume there's nothing wrong. So that's where we are. If I don't get a proper response from from them, it'll then go to parliamentary. I can then go to parliamentary review, or I can go to the parliamentary ombudsman. And if it doesn't go there, I have a very good colleague, Alison Wright, who has taken one case to judicial review, and I will take it to judicial review, where a judge will actually look at all the evidence and make a decision as to whether the MHRA is deficient in its response.
Mm. Um, don't hold your breath waiting. But on a different matter, because we're trying to squeeze in a lot here, and I want to ask you about this one. Further policy changes were made this week on the boosters for COVID-19. They are now not recommended for anyone, including the unwell and elderly. So, if they're not recommended for anyone, Why do we still have them?
Well, because most of the pharmaceutical industry is still working on them, still developing them. Uh,
Oops.
the investment going into these gene modified cell therapies is unbelievable, billions of dollars. You've got all the big pharma companies promising to reshore to the US. So the irony is the UK government started all this and now they shot themselves in the foot because everything is going to the US. And, the companies like GlaxoSmithKline and AstraZeneca are also going overseas. So, and the UK government really, its life science policy for the last 10 or 15 years is in tatters. But these drugs, these gene modified cell therapies, the supply chain is impossible to keep safe. So the only thing is, no one's told the investors that. And when I say investors, I'm talking about private equity, I'm talking about venture capital. They don't understand anything about the pharmaceutical supply chain. All they understand is the returns they get on their investment. They're not looking below the surface, and they're going to have a very nasty shock because all this knee-jerk activity they've got now with investing in these very small biotech companies who really don't understand what they're developing, and the big pharma companies who are promising, like, I think there's about $1.2 trillion they've got in what they call the armory to invest in these new therapies. Now I don't understand 1.2 trillion, but I think that's a lot of dollars, and
It
but
is.
you've got nothing to invest in, basically.
So, but I just wanted, here's another thing for you as we just jet around the world on your rug, because you are the genie when it comes to letting the secrets out of the bottle. I like that one actually. The if it's I'll go again. They're not recommended for anyone, including the unwell and elderly, is what I'm trying to say. Yet we have in New Zealand and Australia, but just recently in New Zealand, they've been pumping it out. Get the jab. Two things. One, it's not recommended for anyone. So are they? Could they be charged with manslaughter or attempted murder because they know it's not recommended? So what do other governments around the world do? Do they put their head in the sand? Not the saying chicken or the egg. It's chicken or the no. It's the ostrich or the egg. Do they keep putting their head in the sand and hoping that we'll all go away, and maybe we will one day. But at the moment, we're not going to do that. So what do they do?
Well, this is a classic systemic effect. This all started in the UK, where the NHS was desperate to get these injections into people, and Gates had penetrated TJ in Australia and all the other authorities across the world with his duplicate organization, and that's still ongoing. No one's told them these are dangerous. The only country that knows is the USA, and FDA is a different animal now. George Tidmarsh, who's head of the Centre for Drug Evaluation and Research, he's very active on LinkedIn, basically explaining all the things they're doing, like they're being much more transparent. So the FDA, no, the CDC has been kicked out because they were actually working to undermine the whole of FDA activity, along with Peter Marks, who has now been fired by John F. Kennedy Jr. But it's only happening in the US. That'll start to percolate out. And what's happening in the UK now, with all the big pharma going to the US, they're going to be thinking, why are we pushing these jobs when no one's going to be making them in the UK? So this is a classic systemic effect where there's a lag in response. The latest responses in the US from the FDA and John F. Kennedy Jr. And I don't know the time scale, but we will see this percolate through to all the other markets. And yes, I mean, if Nuremberg 2 does happen, people are going to have to explain why they kept pushing these therapies when they knew that they were dangerous.
Yeah, I have. I think government or bureaucrats or the civil service in the UK think they're the main part of the problem in many ways, because they are never, ever, ever going to admit they're wrong. And they know they're wrong. They know what they're doing. So I just think it's a terrible thing. And I just would like to see what happens next, because truly it is not recommended for anyone, including the unwell. But the other thing too is, if you have to keep taking a booster, it says that the inverted commas vaccine doesn't work anyway. Hedley, if somebody wants to find out more about you, very short conversation today, which is very disappointing because I was primed and you were late. But next time.
I didn't know I could use the same link. That's the problem. Someone needs to give me some training.
Well, I was waiting, but I had a very nice chin wag, as we would say, with Greg Simons, and found out all about Dakar. But he's a very, very intelligent person and a good conversationalist, as you are. That's why I look forward to my Friday evenings. Back to the original question: how do they find out more about you?
Inside Pharma, they will find 4 years of evidence on Biotech, Moderna, the whole thing. HedleyRees.substack.com. That's my main platform. I've got other platforms, more nuanced, more working with FDA and the whole thing. I've got a newsletter for them. So, but if you do an internet search on my name, you'll come out with all sorts of stuff. I don't think you'll find anything dodgy, but no, you won't. So,
well, we saw a picture of Burt Reynolds with that, with not much on, and someone said, "There's Hedley," and I said, "That's not Hedley, it's Burt Reynolds." Sorry, I've got to get rid of that. It's gone. It's gone. But now tell me this, Hedley. My final question is, because the weather in Wales is never great at any time. But what are you doing? What do you do for the weekend? Can I ask you?
Yeah, on the weekend, it's my wife insists it's family time. As I said before, we're near Porthcawl, so rain isn't too bad when you're by the sea, walking your two whippets and watching them run. And I like to do just normal stuff, and I always keep thinking about these issues. But I try not to think about you, Mike, because I know you're a nice bloke. But, I have to think about other things as well.
Yeah, enough's enough. Actually, my wife says the same thing. But anyway, that's another story. Hedley, it's always a pleasure. And I have to say, I'm looking forward to next week, and we will have more time. Just click that link next time, please. Hedley Rees, Managing Director and Lead Consultant at PharmaFlow Limited. That's about it for the week. I've enjoyed it immensely. Tonight was a bit different. Great conversation with Greg Simons from New Zealand, but I wouldn't hold that against him. They're quite nice people, New Zealanders. I didn't know. I thought they were convicts too. There you are. Aren't I ignorant? We were the convicts, shipped to a place with beautiful beaches because we stole some potatoes, some spuds. And before that, we had that. I really enjoyed that special we had on the farming show with how they grew hops and what they did with it to make the magnificent thing called beer, which I know that a few of our chin waggers who are having a conversation at the moment would enjoy also. So it's a Friday evening here. It's in the morning in the UK. New Zealand, it must be early evening. It's probably about 8 o'clock, 8:04. So thank you very much for your company this week. I have enjoyed it. Thank you to Jen and Cam and my wife Lynn for putting up with me. Thank you to everybody. There you are, some more heartfelt thanks, and I do appreciate it. And most of all, I thank our subscribers, our people that watch us and that listen to us. Your act of kindness does not go unappreciated. Thank you. This is The World Today.
We're today's news talk. The World Today.